Hello there, Azer here. Today I'm gonna make a video about something a bit related to New Genesis, but of course it's a form of an article again. Basically, Dengeki Online, you know who it is. It's the website that always interviews with Mr. Yuria Kimura here, and they usually always do this interviews very consistently, which I really am thankful, to be honest, because this is probably the closest we can get into insights about the development of how New Genesis and how they actually what kind of a vision they have in terms of the development for the games. And specifically, the reason why I actually covered this article is because they had an English translation, which usually in Japanese articles they don't really have them for the most part. I don't know why. The previous views are also not exactly translated, but I guess it has a significant meaning if it was actually translated here. So let's just go through and just seek the English part and just start from there. Now, what it actually states is basically the 2.5 year anniversary. Yeah, sure. They've been doing this since last year, and the Super Genesis Festival is probably happening, and then there's a lot of things going on, and then and it's very interesting that you can see that from they actually realized from August that the gear system, the gearing things towards hardcore players is actually extremely bad in terms of oh yeah, if they wanted to get the 9-star rarity weapon, it's just non-existent. Literally, you cannot find the new 9-star weapon called Taisa series. I think at that time Taisa was extremely elusive. It's even rarer than the previous rare power full weapons and stuff like that. So yeah, unfortunately, however, at that time period I don't really go for it because I know that I'm never going to get a Taisa weapon at all until it is dropping like candy recently, in the new when they actually released the 10-star Raya series. Basically Taisa weapons is now dropping like candy because, well, I mean, it's not exactly the best in slot weapons anymore, so of course it's going to drop like nothing, right? That's why I don't really care about the end game weapons, because sometimes just a short time pass and then they will adjust the drop rate of the weapon extremely high that in the end it just does not matter. So the same thing actually happened to the Flugel Guard weapons as well. It became the best in slot because of how unique it is. It provides special effects that you can actually stack after using Photon Blast for the whole ARCs members in the field, which is close to you, I suppose, which is extremely useful, especially for anybody at all to dish over 100k damage when they actually crit their weapon. And then, of course, in the end, we also obtained the Melek series, which is kind of okay if you don't like the Worshmel weapons. And yeah, basically that's it. That's the only weapons that we get. And recently, the Raya series is out, and you can actually very easily obtain Melek and the Taisa series dropping very easily in the new Kawaris high-end content regions, like in the Rajon Gorge. So yeah, it's not exactly an issue anymore. So at here you can actually see that they are actually trying to make adjustment to the game's how to say, the rewards of actually boss dropping. They did actually increase the amount of the rewards being dropped exponentially, especially if you are in the PSO2 day. So yeah, I did take advantage of PSO2 day and have managed to obtain more than 5 rare weapon series. So, but I unfortunately I still haven't gotten a level 5 fixer one, but it's okay. I did get some level 2 fixer ones, which are probably decent enough for me to build in the future. Regardless, however, yeah, the devs did actually try to improve the game, but it took them I don't know, took them like 2 months or more in order for them to even implement something as minor as this. But that's just how it is, I suppose. Okay, about the 2024 roadmap. Well, it's basically just talking about like, oh, they revealed the roadmap, and then they revealed the new weapon battle action, which is like it looks. And the question that is being asked is literally saying like, okay, they look like an SUV weapon for PSU cars. Can you give more specific on the new action? And then basically they just Yuya Kimura just answered it's actually a very similar to PSO2's Dark Blast, which is pretty good because Dark Blast is actually slightly customizable. You can make it invisible, but I'm not sure if we can actually make our battle action invisible, maybe, so that it would look like we are literally becoming a mech ourselves instead of like using the new battle system. Maybe if that's possible to make it like transparent, that would be pretty cool actually for cosplays or just becoming utilizing our accessories to be the weapon instead of like utilizing that battle action thing, you know. So here is literally like the sneak peeks on how it looks like. I think I already showed that in like the previous NGS headline review, but that's alright. So they also asked like, how will the weapons be handled when fighting with new action? You will not be able to use your equipped weapon. Yeah, that's the same as Dark Blast. There will be no effect on your attack or defense power or the functionality of your equipped weapons and armor. So basically what this means is that it does not scale according to your armor or your stats or whatever. Unlike the turrets that you can get in the Aegis, Darkfell's Aegis Urgent Quest, because that weapon actually scales with your stats somehow. I don't understand why, but it apparently does. But this one is apparently separated completely, so maybe it would have a mastery system similar to the Dark Blast system as well, which you can actually increase the stats of certain attacks and certain skills. Who knows, right? Maybe that is also going to be copied from base PSO2, but who knows about that? Other than that, however, we also have like the gotten a sneak peek at the new field that was announced. It seems like an urban landscape similar to Tokyo and Las Vegas. This question asker is literally asking the question that we wanted because they literally ask like they literally use comparison as questions, which is extremely literally what we players would literally just ask about because we really like to relate the new Genesis to like base PSO2 so much because base PSO2 literally is like a decent game and we really hope that new Genesis reaches that level, but at the moment, yeah, it's not there yet. So that's why they asked this kind of question. So Yuya Kimura actually just stated, there isn't anything I can say at this time, but what can actually tell you is that it won't be the same scale as the regions we've released until now. Interesting. For example, there won't be any normal combat sectors such as the city and bases. However, we are planning for it to be of a larger scale than the seal. Now, I don't know about this, where this new open field will be at, but it's very interesting that they stated that there will not be a non-combat sectors such as cities or bases, because that means there would not be a new base of operations like in this city, which means this whole city is going to be a hostile new territory, and it's going to be just combat. That means we are literally going back to the first days of PSO base PSO2, where it's literally just us and going to instances of cityscape and just killing darkers that's invaded a city landscape or something like that. But in this game, it's more of the starters and the doors, I suppose. But since they also stated that it's going to be a larger scale than Lucille, I can't really comment on that because Lucille is technically just several rooms stitched together. It is not that huge, to be honest. But if he says it's actually larger than that, that means we can traverse the field to seek specific incursions of like specific mobs in each of the areas, I suppose. Hopefully there will be more lore added as well, because this is the first time that we are actually getting a new open region that has no cities or bases, which means it's going to be a completely new concept for us all NGS players. However, I'm not going to like allow my hopes to get way too high because in the end of the day, it might be just an instance area for you to clear and that's it. Oh well. However, after that, they also asked about in October 2023, the class level 80. Yeah, basically the question is about like, oh, the level 80 cap has reached. And since we are getting like the level 85 already, is unlock will the unlock for level 90 will be like the same characters as well. Well, Yuya Kimura answers basically the primary reason is that there is like additional high rank updates to the Quarries region. The enemy becomes stronger, so we wanted the players to become stronger as well. So they unlock the new levels with Alio and then the new levels with Retem. So of course they're gonna do that with Quarries. I'm not exactly sure what they're gonna do for Stia, but maybe it is a level 90 unlock. But who knows, right? However, for the class 90 unlock, we will look at the state of game after level 85 unlock and make our decision from there regardless of correct update. So yeah, it's we are reaching the point where we are at the end game era of like the base PSO2 now, but in just like 3 years. Back then, the level to 75 was like for the longest time has been the max cap level was like 75 for the longest time back in base PSO2. And then after that, the only when like episode 4, 5, 6. I don't really remember which one was it, but then they actually included the increment of like level 80, 85, and till 100. And actually, post 85 is optional because it's just extra excessive stuff that's for earning like certain achievements or titles, and that's it. Which is very interesting as for New Genesis, you actually required to reach like the max level in order to access certain content. So who knows, right? And then there is also like the new question about the new type of permanent party quest, which is something that they have stated in the the whole roadmap. Basically, Yuya Kimura is going to just answer it. It's a challenge quest to see how many enemies you can defeat within a limited time. It's similar to the Blazing Battle and Night Chill Battle quest, but as the field that the enemy will appear in is much more expensive, you will need the help of your party members. Basically, it's probably a harder version of the limited time quest that we have previously, but maybe endless waves. Maybe it's probably very similar to the endless quest we have in base PSO2, but in New Genesis regions, I suppose. And since it's going to keep spawning, I think a very well coordinated party is going to able to deal with them very, very efficiently if they know where the enemy are spawning from or where they actually spawn from, the spawn points. I guess that's actually a part of the end game as well. There's going to, since it's a new type of permanent quality quest, just like how the seal exploration is, it's going to be a mainstay, which is very interesting. I'm also very interested in what kind of rewards this new permanent party quest is going to be giving. But hey, time will tell. And about the game, this is the very interesting part. They actually give a statistic about how was the creative space was being received. So basically, according to him, according to Mr. Yuya Kimura, the latest data taken over the week for an active players is more than the 50% of players have entered the space at least once. Yes, sure. If they wanted to include players that just wanted to complete certain tasks by just entering the creative space and just doing very, very basic and menial tasks and just leave after they done it, yeah, these statistics will include them. And I'm not surprised that more than half of the players are actually able to access it because I mean, it was part of this. It was part of the version 2 release, anyways, and about 20 to 30%, which is pretty reasonable amount. That is actually extremely hardcore in like editing their creative space to look like something very, very cool, I guess. It's plausible because I don't really think like creative space is not exactly like the kind of content that is like how to say gameplay related. It's more like a creative kind of a thing. So not everybody really like this kind of stuff because they would rather use their time to play gameplay related contents and stuff like building castles and stuff. So yeah, then there was a time when the players were dissatisfied with the item drop rate. Currently, are you making any balance adjustments towards that? The drop rate is calculated backwards by predicting the content participation rate and the clear rate. Now, before this, I think we always assume that the developers just put a random number on the rare drops and the weapons and the armor drops, and the chances of it actually dropping for a player is basically based on the RDR. But looking at how Yuya Kimura actually phrasing this, the drop rate is calculated backwards by predicting the content participation rate and the clear rate. That means I guess that means they have a system in place where they detect, okay, maybe Rayjord Gorge has like a map full of players, 32/32 players. The chance of the rare weapons dropping in this amount of players is higher than a map that has just one single player in it. And I think maybe there is a certain way the system actually calculates the RNG in such a way that it was going to benefit a party play instead of like solo playing. And unfortunately, I am not sure how different it is in between. Like, if there is only a solo player who is actually farming for the 10-star weapons in comparison to like the full 32 players in a single open field would be. So, since he's actually saying something like that, that means our assumption about like the RDR is completely false. Sometimes that's the reason, I guess, sometimes you can still get rare weapons even if you don't have boosters, because maybe the participation rate for that how to say participation rate of that the certain content is much higher, and that's the reason why a lot of people actually get the rare weapons, just because there's a high active engagement in that certain area. Hopefully they would able to disclose to us much more details about this, but I guess they won't exactly going to disclose it to us all because it's the RNG, right? I mean, that's just how it is. So the rest of the question is basically just explaining about how the August content distribution, about like how the participation and clear rates is not exactly favorable in August in 2023. So they actually had to respond it respond to those issues, but only after like the actual results was delayed. That's the reason why they did not address the whole loot issue back then, I guess, because everything they do is just so slow, unfortunately. And when the results are out, it's already like delayed quite a long while. So yeah, unfortunately, that's just how it is. And then for that reason, we are currently working to improve the accuracy of our prediction and participation and clear rates for each content to establish a system that will allow us to immediately take some countermeasures if things are different from our forecast after implementation. So basically, they are trying to make the drop rates like not exactly RNG dependent. It would actually look at the player base or the players that are literally running that content. So I would assume that a map that is full of players is going to have higher chance of rare items dropping in comparison to a single player who is locking that room for a password and just literally grinding solo there. So I think the reason why they wanted to make it such a way that the more players that is engaging a certain map, the higher the drop rate is, because they know that RMT bots can use the password system and just use hacks and just solo contents easily if single character, because they can just abuse like hacks and stuff like that to gain an unfair advantage when they are using a passworded room. But well, I mean, they get bad after that anyway, so I don't really know what's the purpose of those RNT bots doing that. But yeah, that is probably the only way to curb, RMT bots abusing the game, I suppose. In the previous interview, if you said that you were still at the consideration stage of new class, so have there been any developments since then? Now, of course, the new class that everybody is like and literally interested about. Unfortunately, however, like I don't really think they are ready at all to talk about the new class, which is what Mr. Yuya Kimura here stated. And currently, they are just prioritizing adjusting the existing classes and adding actions, leading the new ways to play the game, such as a new action system that was shown in the roadmap. My predictions are correct. Basically, after the bouncer rework is out, they are now prioritizing on improving the existing classes to make them better before releasing another very, very powerful and overpowered class. So I'm not exactly sure what the new class would be, but I really hope that it actually incorporates a new weapon, because if they are going to be new Scion classes, don't really know how they can top. Um, I don't really know how they can top the gun slash and the gun blade and the other classes, because they already have incorporated a lot of Scion elements into their classes already. So the reason why we are so excited about the new class is because it will be a completely original idea in most likely. So who knows, right? But unfortunately, there will be no news about the new class. Then they are just going to be prioritizing and making the best existing classes play better. Hopefully, there will be like more adjustment to the still very lackluster weapons in certain classes, I suppose. And then we reach the conclusion, which is very, very general. They just Mr. Yuya Kimura just wanted to like just give thanks to all the arcs and continuous support in NGS, and that they have a lot of issues they need to reflect on, despite some very good received contents, like for example like the Slayer class and the Creative Space. Hopefully, they are able to understand that our player base require more gameplay elements in comparison to like something like just creative elements. Because if a game only have creative elements, it's not going to be successful, unfortunately, unless that game was Minecraft. And unfortunately, not every game is Minecraft or Roblox or stuff like that, man. If you wanted to reach that kind of level, it is a whole different kind of a game, because that is different whole. That's not really a live service. That's not really a Fantasy Star game per se. So hopefully they can go back to the Fantasy Star gameplay roots and improve the overall loot system and improve the content systems as well in the future, post the new area, the new open field release and the new battle system. Maybe there will be a huge revamp coming. I don't know, maybe they call it version 3 or something, who knows, right? So that's all for this whole article. And in conclusion, for me, is that I think the most interesting thing about this article is basically about them explaining the open field having no non-combat sectors or like city or bases, which is actually very interesting and intriguing. Also, that talking about like the drop rate system as well, which is calculated by a certain system that determines the drop rate by participation rate and clear rate. I if Unless they disclose how this thing's system works, we won't know how they actually calculate it. But I think basically is basically that the more players participating, the higher the drop rate would be. That is literally the only conclusion I can come up with. So if you guys wanted to farm for the rare weapons, make sure to just enter the room with the most player instead of like entering an empty room and just solo playing there. So yeah, that's just how the game is currently proceeding at, and that's just the whole Dengeki article that I really wanted to cover, because it has very interesting details that a lot of players might just miss if they did not read this article, which has been released since yesterday. And that is all, and I just hope the best for this game in the future. Unfortunately, my own issues is probably still persisting, but I'm going to just conserve my storage spaces and try to just make videos here and there, just so that I'm not exactly slacking off, I guess, from making like new Genesis content. But so far, with the release of a lot of interesting and very good games recently, I guess I understood the reason why a lot of people are not exactly playing this game that much. But hopefully, Mr. Yuya Kimura can understand our issues and he can just fix it better. And that's it. And hopefully, you like what I'm actually saying here. And if you like more videos and content about New Genesis, you can actually please just leave a like and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time. Sayonara.